The dark political truth behind Hou Yi shooting the suns. Most people view the ancient Chinese myth Hou Yi shooting the suns as a classic tale of a mortal hero who defies heaven to save humanity, or a tragic story of a righteous man who falls from grace. But this popular interpretation is nothing more than a sanitized fairy tale. Beneath the surface lies a cold, calculated game of divine power and a ruthless political purge. Let's start with the original record from Shan Hai Jing. One day, 10 suns suddenly appeared in the sky at once. Their scorching heat burned all plants and wildlife to the ground, plunging mortal humanity into an unprecedented crisis of survival. At that time, the supreme ruler of the ancient divine realm was Emperor Jun, the father of these 10 sun deities. Faced with the catastrophic disaster brought by his own sons, Emperor Jun summoned the divine archer Hou Yi and bestowed upon him two supreme divine weapons, a sacred bow and a magic arrow. His official order sounded benevolent and simple: descend to the mortal world, resolve the disaster plaguing ordinary people, and discipline his disobedient children. But what happened next changed everything. After descending to earth, Hou Yi drew his bow and arrow without hesitation, shooting down 9 of the 10 suns in one swift, decisive strike, leaving only one sun in the sky. The traditional version of the story frames Hou Yi as a reckless, hot-blooded hero who lost control in the heat of the moment and defied the emperor's original intention of merely warning the suns. Grief-stricken by the death of his 9 sons, Emperor Jun flew into a rage and banished Hou Yi and his wife Chang'e from the divine realm, stripping them of their immortality and condemning them to mortal life forever. On the surface, this plot makes perfect sense. But upon closer inspection, it is utterly illogical. As the supreme sovereign ruling the suns, moons, stars, and countless ancient divine kingdoms of the wilderness, Emperor Jun was a master of cosmic order and power. Is it plausible that such an omniscient, formidable ruler would hand a lethal divine weapon to the most accurate archer in the entire divine realm, expecting him to only intimidate and warn his sons? The fatal mistake was never Hou Yi's impulsive disobedience. It was the weapon Emperor Jun chose to give him. If Emperor Jun only wanted to ease the extreme heat and discipline his children, he could have easily sent wind and rain gods to cool the mortal world, or granted Hou Yi a giant shield to block the sunlight. Instead, he deliberately handed over a pure killing weapon designed for annihilation. This is the classic authority trap in power politics. It is identical to a boss handing you a loaded gun, ordering you to silence a troublesome rival, then feigning shock and outrage when you eliminate them. From the moment you take the weapon, you are destined to become the scapegoat. What you believe to be a supreme imperial favor is actually a death sentence and a trap laid for you in advance. Yet this calculated scheme is only the surface of the story. The true darkness of this myth lies in what the 10 suns truly represent. These suns were no ordinary celestial beasts, they were the direct bloodline of the supreme deity, the living symbols of divine sovereignty. Emperor Jun knew perfectly well that if his 10 sons united to form an independent power bloc, his throne as the supreme heavenly ruler would be fundamentally threatened. However, he could never eliminate them with his own hands. Even a mighty ruler cannot bear the stigma of a tyrant who slaughters his own flesh and blood. If he personally executed his 9 sons, his divine prestige and moral authority would collapse completely, shattering the foundation of his rule. That was why he needed a perfect blade, and Hou Yi was the ideal choice. Hou Yi was a resolute, action-oriented hero with a sincere desire to save mortal humanity. Full of righteous passion and no stake in divine imperial infighting, he wholeheartedly believed he was acting on behalf of heaven and benefiting the world. Without any hesitation, he completed the brutal purge of the rebellious royal princes for Emperor Jun. After Hou Yi eliminated 9 sons, celestial order was restored, and supreme power was once again centralized in Emperor Jun's hands. But the heroic archer was left covered in the blood of the divine royal family, a man who could no longer be tolerated in the divine court. Emperor Jun's subsequent banishment of Hou Yi was never an act of paternal grief. It was a cold, rational political decision. Rewarding Hou Yi would mean publicly admitting he had orchestrated the fratricidal purge. Executing the hero would enrage mortal humans and alienate all gods who admired Hou Yi's righteousness. Thus, the optimal political solution was cold elimination: strip Hou Yi of his immortality, banish him to the mortal world, offer no reward, impose no death sentence, and make no explanation. Left trapped in mortal reincarnation, Hou Yi was forced to endure aging, sickness, death, and even the betrayal of his wife China, all while bearing the empty title of a world-saving hero. This is a flawless political cleanup and a ruthless case of using and discarding a pawn. Hou Yi's downfall was never caused by his impulsiveness or recklessness. It stemmed entirely from his position. He was overly capable, stood too close to the core of supreme power, and became an inevitable sacrifice for the ruler's perfect reputation and stable reign. The next time you hear the tale of Hou Yi shooting the suns, look beyond the heroic archer and his legendary bow. The real horror of this myth is not the 10 suns that plunged the world into chaos, but the silent, meticulous death trap crafted by the benevolent supreme ruler long before the first arrow was shot.